How's it going, everyone? Today we are at home to do some Epic Universe updates. Now, we originally had some plans to do some other things, but it is storming like crazy just all day, like downpouring, crazy storms, and the parks have just been kind of flooded, and there wasn't a whole lot we could do there. So I figured today is a perfect day to start doing the Epic Universe updates. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while. I just kind of wanted to wait for the right time to do it. I just have a lot going on as well. And I feel like now that a lot of things are vertical and now we can start to really see and piece together things, I think it's a perfect time to kind of jump in. There's a lot of people out there that cover the Universal construction update, and I highly recommend checking out some of their channels if you want to see some of the older updates and things like that. Now, that being said, I do want to pick up kind of where we are kind of in June and then moving to kind of what we're seeing now today. So let's just jump right in, and just immediately you can look at this and you can say, wow, this park is massive. And sometimes you can't really get the scope of it from an image. So you have to like look for certain things to give you that like cue to be like, it is actually humongous. One big thing is like right here. Also, you might see me like looking around. I'm just trying to make sure everything is working on the technical side of things. But right here, you could see like the giant crane, and just like the size of this is big if you've ever seen them like on the interstate or anything like that. So to see that next to areas like this, kind of absurd. The size of Celestial, or obviously Celestial Park, but of Stardust Racers, again, that's going to be hard. I feel like everyone was on Starfall Racers and now it is Stardust Racers. Regardless, I mean, that just looks massive, and we're going to look at that a little bit more in depth, but there's just a lot here to look at, and it's like there is a massive park that is being built, and immediately I want to think, where can we expand? Are there new areas that could potentially come, or can they expand the same like zones that they already have, but just kind of add rides and things like that? And I do know you see like the construction areas over here, and to me that says that is potentially areas that they could build out in time, because they're using them now for construction to kind of get in and out of the park. So that could ultimately open up more areas when they are kind of done with everything. I don't want to totally dig too much into it, but there is a lot of construction areas that we can kind of see around. Those could ultimately turn into something, and that's kind of what I hope for. Now, this post is from July 14th. Everything here is from Bio Reconstruct, by the way. If you guys don't follow them on Twitter or X, I highly recommend it. This is just another look. I do want to look at the carousel here in a little bit. Massive, massive fountain there. But really what I'm looking at is the actual Grand Helios Hotel and the kind of look to it here. I mean, it's really coming along. Obviously, we don't see any of the internals right now, but I mean, the external just framework looks great. You could see the little overhang, which I'm going to guess all of this over here to the left is where you're going to come in, the valet, things like that. Looks like you have the parking garage right next to it. So I feel like Grand Helios is looking really good. I don't want to talk about ticket things right now, but I'm going to just kind of come into that a little bit and say my guess is when Universal makes official ticket announcements, I'm assuming Grand Helios reservations will be available, because I think they're going to want everybody to kind of come together and make their full park reservation. So once that hotel is taking reservations, I think that's when we're going to get the ticket information. I could be totally wrong, because we do have Terra Luna and Stella Nova that are currently taking reservations. So my guess is this is that final hotel that I think is part of the opening day hotels. And I think once this opens or is ready to take reservations, I think that's when we'll get some tickets. Just again, total guess there, but kind of interesting to see. Another thing I do want to point out over here, we could see again another little portal over here, which is cool to see the portals kind of popping up. And then right in front of us, we have the Dark Universe area, which is looking super, super cool. And I think I have a few of the coaster trains, so I'm hoping we can take a look at that. I do see the design of them, and I've pointed this out multiple times. A lot of people are thinking that this werewolf ride here is going to be like Guardians, and I don't think it's going to be. I keep telling people that. I'm like, I don't think it's Guardians. I don't think it's Guardians. It is going to be more like a ride, I believe, called Time Traveler over at Silver Dollar City. If you go and look at like a POV or the layout of that, I think it's going to be closer to that. I think the trains are back to back, and I'll show you in a little bit, assuming I can find that photo, how those trains look. I don't think it's a Guardians style ride. So you guys need to keep in mind, it is not Guardians, and I wouldn't compare it to Guardians as of yet. Over here, we see the giant show building for the dark ride, which is going to use that Kuka arm style, which is going to be pretty intense from what I heard. Apparently it's going to be like the scariest dark ride in like all of the theme parks. I know there was one over in like Europe where it was supposed to be pretty scary. I don't know. Either way, I'm very excited for all of this. We're starting to get a few more photos of the queues and things like that in here, which is really exciting stuff. But another thing I did want to look at was the Chronos. Obviously, when you're walking into Epic Universe, what's the big thing that you see? Bam, the Chronos. That's what we are starting to see, everybody. You can see the influencers getting their Chronos and showing you as it kind of parts together and pieces together all of these things. So I believe inside of here, we'll ultimately get all of the zones that we're getting, all of the universes that you can ultimately go into. I don't know, but I assume that's why they're doing it. I think it's going to be a replica there. I am wondering how the entering of the park is going to be. Is this going to operate like Universal Studios side, where this is like the big arch, and then these are things you can walk under? Are these going to be the spots that you can ultimately have the checkpoints, and this is where you're actually entering the park and getting your tickets checked? Or are these going to be closed off? Those are things I am curious to kind of see what ends up happening here. But again, you can see about how big it is, as we can see a construction worker here inside of like the little tunnel, and the zone here is it's looking pretty big, not massive, but definitely pretty large. Just kind of what we're seeing with the portal there. I think actually if we come back here, you can just see another kind of view of it. And again, just kind of a little bit wider out. You can kind of see this overhang area, which I'm guessing is going to be kind of like Universal Studios side, where they're going to have guest services and things like that. Don't totally know, but that would be my guess based on what we're seeing here. Also, I believe you're parking at Epic Universe. So the traffic will be coming specifically from Epic, and then they're going to have bus drop-offs for, you know, the transportation that people are coming over, things like that. We do see some more Grand Helios, and that's really what I was kind of looking at here was, you know, the construction here. I love that they have these giant windows right here, looking pretty cool. I wonder if this area down here with like the yellow boxes, is that going to be something that we can go out on, like the balcony, kind of like at Sapphire Falls? They have like the balcony over by the bar. So are we getting kind of a walkout area, or is that specifically going to be construction? I don't totally know. Again, we see the overhang here, and we see the coloring and everything going on the roof and such. This building, by the way, if you've ever driven like out in this area, out on the road, it is massive. Like the Grand Helios it's grand. It's ginormous, by the way. Like until you see it even remotely close in person, I can't express how big this hotel is. It's going to be massive building. I mean, you can see this is the Harry Potter area, by the way. I mean, just look at like this building here, and then look at the Grand Helios. I mean, it's absurdly big. We are going to talk about this little red tent, by the way. We are starting to see a little bit of the Harry Potter area, the Ministry of Magic over there. So that is pretty cool that we are getting some sort of construction over there, even though we haven't had an announcement. So again, just another photo there. A better look at the Grand Helios here. Again, just massive. I mean, these here, look at the construction equipment and then compare it to the actual size of the hotel. Look at these people. I mean, that's a person, and it looks like an ant. Massive hotel. We'll move on. I just want to point this out. I mean, again, you can see the people down here. It's going to be a very big building, and very excited for Grand Helios. We are going to try and stay there at some point. I don't know the price. Obviously, I assume opening day is probably going to be very expensive. That's the only thing I can say. I'm going to assume like the very first person to stay in that hotel room will be paying a very hefty price. It's kind of like cruises whenever they do like their inaugural cruise. I feel like it's pretty crazy. Also, I think I'm just expanding it with this. So maybe I was wrong there. But moving over, I want to look a little bit now at, I hear my cat in the background. I want to look at the coaster construction, this is for the How to Train Your Dragon ride, and it's giving me a little bit of Everest vibes, right? Pretty big trains. It looks like it's, you've got a few carts there, or maybe like Big Thunder. Not quite as many rows. I'm not seeing, I don't think. So it looks like we're getting 5 trains. And it looks like we're getting 4 per train. So I think the other ones can house like 24 maybe. So this should be around 20 if I'm not mistaken, right? So we have 5 with 4. So I don't totally know, but I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, this is the like loading area for like construction. This path back here is the actual ride itself. So when they like take like carts off the track, this should be kind of like that maintenance area. So that way they can kind of shift it in, unless there's some weird sort of like track switching that I'm not aware of, but I don't think that's the case. I think this is just like a construction loading zone. And then moving on, this is kind of a bigger view of that if we kind of look, and we are starting to get some of the shrubbery and greenery going on around, as you can kind of see. So this, like I said, I think this is maintenance, and right at the bottom you can see, I believe that is going to be a like facility or a building there for maintenance as well. Something that they also did to Hagrid's recently. They're in the process of expanding the maintenance, so that way the ride can actually open up with all of the carts on the track. So that's kind of cool. But as you look here, we're assuming this is going to be the loading building, I think, or it's part of the show building of some sort. And the reason I say that is we have this track switch right here. So that could be a train coming out and coming through, or it's coming in and kind of loading, kind of like the Mummy. So as you come in, you'll go right or you'll go left. That's what I'm seeing here. Or it operates like Hagrid's as well. When you go into the room that does the drop, it actually will, you either take a left or a right, I believe, as you come into that track. So they can kind of house it and get them ready for the next ones. So there could be something in there that they're basically swapping. So that way, whatever mechanism in there, it'll switch back and forth. I think I have a better look, and we'll look here, but we do have a launch right here. We can see the fins that are sticking up. So that's going to be some sort of launch that's coming in right over this track here. But it's cool nonetheless to see where it's going. But this is the photo I wanted to show you with those fins. So you can see the actual fins. We are getting a launch here. They can also operate like brakes as well if, they need to stop things or whatever. It should help make sure that we have more trains on the track. That is something that I feel like Universal and Disney do really well. They get a lot of trains out on the track, making it so that you can kind of keep things flowing, and then you can get a high turnaround rate, and riders per hour definitely goes up. So cool little building here. It looks like you're going to come flying through. It'll launch right through and go straight up. So cool to see. I don't know the top speed on this ride. I don't think it's meant to be a super intense ride, but I do think it's going to be pretty sweet nonetheless. Just a little bit more of the Isle of Berk area. It does look like we don't have a lot of water, but a little bit of something going on. It looks like there's some sort of generator or some sort of pump that we can see here. So nothing too crazy here. I do like the design work here. These structures also do look pretty big overall. But again, nothing too crazy. I just wanted to point out we don't have water there. One thing to keep in mind is if you do have water there, you've got to maintain the water. So the longer they can kind of wait on the water, the better. They obviously have some drainage system there. This could just be the rain, or they could be trying some things out, kind of filling some stuff with water, seeing how things look, seeing how kind of whatever the maintenance they need to look at, and then draining it out. I don't know, but again, one thing to keep in mind is I don't think we'll see a lot of water until much closer to the actual park opening, because like I said, you've got to maintain it. If you want to dye it as a certain color, they do that over at Islands. You got to do that. Obviously we can already see some like algae and like moss or whatever kind of growing out over here. So those are things you have to keep in mind when you do start to add water to rides and things like that. There's already maintenance that you'll have to kind of keep up with. So my guess is that's going to take a little while. And then again here, just some more track work that we're kind of seeing. Again, this is taken on July 14th. So very cool that this is all kind of like new photo things that we're kind of seeing. I really like to see that we're getting shrubbery, we're getting greenery, we're getting a lot of the kind of, just design that is coming together. And it's not just like a bunch of dirt all over the place. You can see they've planted a lot of stuff. The grass is looking great. You can kind of see the sod squares that are coming in as it grows and kind of develops in there. It should be seamless, I'm assuming, by next year, but you can definitely see kind of the squares that we have now as they're kind of like putting all the sod down. We do have the sheeps, and looks like we have, I don't know what this is going to turn out to be, or it's just using just for kind of maintenance here. Still does look like we're having some pretty cool banked turns through here, which is kind of nice. This looks like it's going to be a cool little snap back here. So we're going to be banking, then you're going to go in a pretty heavy bank, kind of come up and over and dive down. So it looks like the ride should be a fun ride nonetheless, even though it's not going to be the most intense to my assumption. I still think it's actually going to be a pretty sweet ride overall. And then I think this might be the last one here. I don't, maybe one or two more for the actual coaster itself. But then over here, we're seeing a lot of construction work. And that was the reason why I wasn't sure if that one building is going to be a split system where it's using kind of that entrance to go either left or right. And that kind of mechanism that they're going to use inside of there, I don't know. But this makes me almost feel like this is going to be the show building. It looks a lot more dressed up. You can see it's still being built up. So that would be my guess. This looks pretty cool. If you guys ever rode SheiKra over at Busch Gardens, they kind of do this cool thing where you like walk across like a bridge to get to your rows. So it'd be cool to see them kind of implement something like that where you have like this unique style queue. Obviously, they're going to design all the queues to be themed correctly, but I would like to see something cool like that where it's like, you know, you're up in the sky and kind of like walking across this bridge. Something fun that could definitely happen there. One other thing again, so you're coming out, you're snapping, and then it looks like we are getting another snap here off the bat. So you're kind of whipping left and right. Obviously, being How to Train Your Dragons, my guess is there's going to be some sort of implementation like you're riding a dragon, kind of going back and forth. We'll kind of see. It looks kind of cool here. I'm guessing this is a launch over here. I don't see any of the fins from this angle. So I don't know if this would be the end or if this is going to be the kind of beginning. So that is something I guess we'll have to kind of keep in mind. Looking cool nonetheless. A lot of design still needs to come out, it seems like, inside of How to Train Your Dragon. You know, there's a lot of like structures there, but it doesn't feel like it's really quite, you know, totally set up. I feel like when you look at something like Dark Universe or the Ministry of Magic over for Harry Potter and things like that, when you have a lot of greenery and grass, I think it's harder, where a lot of that is concrete and buildings. So it feels like those areas are more put together, even though there could be a lot of work that needs to go on in there. I do think when it comes to the Isle of Berk, I think there's just a lot of greenery and like they're bringing this whole Viking land kind of vibe together. And I think it's going to be a little bit harder for them to kind of like finalize all of the actual design stuff outside of like the buildings and things like that. So pretty cool. I like that you go through a lot of these like structures. You know, this makes it kind of look like stadium seating as you're kind of coming through here. It looks like it's going to take up quite a bit of space. I like also that they're implementing it around these flyers, which is the reason I kind of came to this photo, was we are getting like that spinning ride. And I like that the coaster kind of is on the outside, and then the inside, then you have these kind of like flyer rides. Pretty cool stuff. I like those. I think it's going to be cool to kind of witness them. Obviously, over at the Mall of America, they have I think it's Mall of America, but they have the whole one with the Queen Spinner of Shell Shock. She kind of just like nails it. She spins like crazy. So it's cool to see that we have this here. And yeah, the ride, it looks like we have, if I'm not mistaken, so we have 2, 4, 6, and then we're going to have 10. So, or no, we're going to have 12 seats, it looks like, for the ride itself. So I'm guessing that's not a high capacity, depending on how long this goes. It could be kind of a long wait for these rides. Obviously, there's 2 of them, so maybe that'll go quicker. You know, you're going to have 24. Will they operate at the same time? Will they do differently? I don't know. But at 12, that's kind of low, in my opinion, but I mean, it could go pretty quick. It's 24 if they're loading both at the same time. So that's a lot more, and you're obviously doubling your capacity there. So we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that. This is the carousel, by the way. And one thing I want to point out is you look at this photo initially and you're like, hey, it looks pretty cool. You know, it's a big kind of structure, but it doesn't look that big. But if you look at the people here again, look at the humans that are out there. It is massive. This carousel is going to be gigantic. So just, again, I'm using this so you can kind of see just the grand scale of how big this carousel is going to be. And I'm looking forward to it, weirdly enough. I never really care about carousels and merry-go-rounds. I'm like, yeah, they're okay. You know, sometimes you go on and just kind of like relax and just kind of like vibe out. This thing looks like it's going to be pretty sweet. And from kind of the concepts that I think we've seen, it looks completely different than just a normal carousel. So it'll be kind of cool to see how they ultimately get this one going. But a big thing, like I said, is I just want to show you the grand scale of how big this thing actually is. It is a very big building. It's going to be a giant carousel. And like I said, you look at the people standing next to it. Very, 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 very big. Anyway, yeah, just more of the carousel here. A lot of photos of it. It's looking really good. I don't know what's going on the top there. They could be covering that because they don't want sunlight to be hitting it for X amount of time. And I don't know. This coloring definitely gives me that DreamWorks Imagination like food booth area that opened up recently. Very similar kind of coloring there, which is kind of cool. And I think it's nice to have painted stuff. I don't know if this is painted or if it's kind of like the stickers, but I think paintings, like when they paint something, I think always looks really, really good. There is a portal back here. Looks like that is going into the Mario Land. So, you know, take that with what you will. My main focus here was definitely the carousel. But the other thing I wanted to talk about, and this will probably be one of the last things for this video, is the Stardust Racers. This ride, and it's been the theme of the entire video, it is massive. I don't know if you guys can tell how big this ride is. I think people are not understanding how gigantic of a coaster I think this is going to be. I think it is like huge. One thing to also look at is if this is like the loading of the coaster there, that the building is massive as well. But I mean, the length of this ride, the size of this ride, I think it's going to be huge. So very cool to see a more structured image that we are seeing here of the ride. We can see some fins, I believe, here. I'm just seeing a lot of white, so it looks like those are some launches right through here. It looks like we're getting the same thing for some launches. I'm super excited for this one. And again, just more photos here of what we're seeing, but I love the fact that we're getting a dueling coaster. We really haven't had a dueling coaster here, obviously, since probably Dueling Dragons. And I think Gwazi over at Busch Gardens, I think, was a dueling coaster, I think, before they swapped it to Iron Gwazi. But like the old wooden one, I think you could ride one or the other. So depends on what you call dueling. I like the fact that you could be going upside down and actually intersect each other. I think that's awesome. Where I feel like if you're just kind of riding next to somebody, it's still really cool. It's kind of more of a racing style versus a dueling style, in my opinion. Maybe I'm just making stuff up for myself, but that's how I look at things. I think you could have like a racing style where you guys are always just next to each other and, you know, whatever. Or you have dueling where you're actually kind of, you know, overlapping each other, dipping and ducking and flipping and doing stuff around each other, but you're not always right next to each other. You know, I feel like racing coasters, it's the same track, just basically right next to each other, and who finishes first. Dueling, I think, is a different type of coaster. So I think it's cool that it is dueling and not a racer style. Another aerial view, big thing that I just want to point out here is just how many tracks, how many times you're going to be going back and forth. It looks like obviously you kind of have to take these numbers and cut it in half because you have 2 tracks. I believe they're calling one a green track and then maybe the yellow track. I don't know, but I think this track here that looks a little different is being considered the green track. I'm going to show you a pretty cool image here in just a second. But again, I'm just, the amount of steel in this photo is absolutely absurd. Again, just another photo here. I know this here is going to be like almost like a planet kind of thing, that's celestial vibe there. And we've seen like the images of it in the concept art and things like that. So that looks like it's going to be pretty sweet when they do end up finishing that. Obviously, going through it and around it, I think is going to be pretty cool. I think this ride is going to be a blast in the evenings. So if you can get a night ride, that's pretty cool. Now this is what I have been looking for. Obviously, we've heard about kind of some testing, but getting images of the testing looks sweet. Again, I believe this is probably the green track. I think they talked about it, right? Yeah, so the green track. This is super cool. We haven't seen them, I don't think, dueling yet, to my knowledge, but you know, we're seeing the grass underneath. We're seeing some trees. It's starting to come together. But we got carts on the track. They're going. And a lot of people, I think, were very nervous about the opening of Epic, and they're like, you know, are we going to have a lot of ride shutdowns, things like that? I think because we're testing so far out, I don't think we're going to have that problem. But like I said, this was super cool to see that we are getting ride testing. And I think we've gotten it before a little bit, but I think it was on the yellow track, if I'm not mistaken. So it's cool to see on the green. Obviously, again, we have some images here. One thing I am seeing is it looks like we're getting pseudo Velocicoaster style seating. Not totally. We have these kind of wings here. I don't know if Velocicoaster has those wings or not, so I don't know, but the lap pull down is going to be kind of that only thing. So we'll be doing some kind of like ride size testing and things like that to kind of show you guys kind of where the green and the red kind of trigger points are. I know Velocicoaster had some tricks, so if you feel like this is a ride that you may not be able to ride, we'll hopefully be able to kind of navigate that and be able to show you. A lot of people kind of say you kind of sit up and kind of push it down, so I think it's going to operate the same way. It does invert to my knowledge. I'm pretty sure this ride is going to be going upside down a few times, so that's pretty cool to see. I like when you don't have the over the shoulder harnesses. I feel like you get that weightlessness when you're only strapped in kind of around your waist. It's very, very, very cool. I mean, if you've ridden Velocicoaster, you understand what I'm talking about. Okay, well, camera died there for a second, so we are back in, but this is what I wanted to talk about. Right in front of us, this is that Wolfman coaster that everyone is super excited about. And you can see, look at the seating. It is front and back. That's why I'm trying to tell you, if you go back to the start of the video, when I'm like, I don't think it's going to be like Guardians of the Galaxy. It is more like that time traveler ride. And the way I explain it is you have two people sitting like one way and two people sitting the back way. At the easiest way, if you've ever ridden Toy Story Mania over at Hollywood Studios, imagine the carts are like that. Obviously, it's a little bit more comfortable than those seats. It's going to be like an actual roller coaster seating, but that is how they are actually kind of designed. So you are sitting like back to back almost with somebody. So it'll be interesting how the kind of groups work with that. Obviously, if you like want to ride with your friends, it's like, okay, do you want them in the one across from you? You know, it's like, well, I want to be here and I want my friends to be there, because you kind of like look at each other and you're like, hey, what's up? Or are you guys going in the same cart? You know, those are just kind of things that are interesting to me. But, you know, I mean, either way, this is cool to see the actual designs here of the carts themselves. And again, I just want to point out, this is what I believe we are looking at when we are looking at the trains of the coaster itself. So just so you're aware, we're not getting a Guardian style ride. You know, as far as it goes, I mean, it could still kind of rotate you, but I think those kind of free rotate. So like you could rotate more or less depending on kind of how like the cart kind of hits certain angles, I believe. And then also I just want to point this out. More coaster construction. Obviously, I love coasters, so this is cool to see. This is going to be the actual like seating. Like, again, I don't want to say it's the actual like coaster portion, because the coaster portion is kind of underneath based on how it is designed there. But it's cool to see like right here as well. You can see like the coaster track plus kind of like the fake track that we'll be riding on. So that is pretty sweet to be seeing this. Obviously, we see the banana because we are inside of the Donkey Kong kind of country area here. But very, very cool stuff to be able to see the actual coaster on the tracks. And I don't know if it's going to be full trains or if this is how we're operating. Like, are you doing little like things of four like this? Are there just going to be a bunch of them out on the track? That would be something that I would be a little concerned about. They would have to have a lot of like block sections to be able to kind of hit trigger points to allow another cart to go, because the safety of roller coasters, just a very quick brief on it, if you need to basically have a brake run of some sort or like something that can stop the cart in the event the next cart doesn't make it to the next section. And there's little sensors, and those sensors say, hey, we detected that a train has come through, so now another train can kind of open up. And so like you kind of can't have two trains or two carts here inside of one section. So I am curious to see if they are so I am curious to see if they are just doing 4 people in these carts, I mean, that's kind of what it's looking like. I guess maybe you could do like more, but I'm assuming it's going to be 4 people in the cart. Then in order to keep capacity moving on this ride, you have to be able to have multiple carts out on the track. Plus, I feel like visually that's going to look a lot better if you have, you know, all these carts flying around, because it's like the minecart madness. So that is something we're going to have to keep an eye on moving forward. But I just want to point out again, if we do only have, I just want to point out again that if we do only have one cart like this, there would need to be multiple points to be able to stop the ride, because it would have to be able to tell the cart behind it that it's okay to kind of keep going. So to have multiples out on the track at one time, I'm curious to see what ends up happening with that. They can obviously install them under the tracks, or kind of like on the actual track, since you're kind of like riding the fake track. So it'd be easy to kind of hide all these sections, even if they don't put a full brake run and like make it so like you're braking, but they could at least put it there for like kind of emergency situations. I don't know. There could be a potential capacity issue if that is something that we're looking at, because most of the time you're looking at least 12 people, I feel like, on one train at a time, mostly more, if any, sometimes more. So that is something that you got to keep in mind, is 4 versus 12, how many people are actually going at a time. So kind of cool there. Then one more last look at Starfall Racers is all I was kind of looking at. We don't have to dig much more into it here, but the final thing I did want to look at was this tent over in the Ministry of Magic. We can also see some painting going on the buildings here, and we can see some wordage that is happening out here. So the Oculus Regulus here. So you know, you can zoom in and kind of go looking around, but it's cool to see that we have a lot of verticality inside of the Harry Potter area, because I feel like it is the last, you know, announcement that we're waiting for. And inside of Epic Universe, I just saw this tent and I was like, oh, I don't remember seeing that in any of the concept art or anything like that. So what exactly is it going to be? And now this red tent pops up. And again, this was in the Epic Universe concept, but I didn't see it before then. So it looked kind of cool. I don't know if it's going to be a shop, so like for merchandise. I don't know if it's going to be how they start the queue to a ride. I don't think so, based on the location here. I think it's going to be too far. Could it be food? I don't know. It looks kind of small for food. I don't really know what it's going to be. Or maybe they put on a little show inside of there. That'd be kind of cool. Obviously giving shade to the actors too. That's always a big plus. You know, some of them are out there in the middle of the heat. I mean, look at the parade. It's 100+ degrees out there, and they've got to be out there for 30 minutes, and they are sweating, putting a smile on. And congrats and thank you so much to all the team members that are out there and all the performers that go through that. I know it's a side rant, but like, it is brutally hot, and they are out there in a full, you know, get up with, you know, just the sun beating straight down on them for pretty much 30 minutes and still performing. So I love to see that we might get some shade for them, if that is what this comes out to be, or if that is what this turns out to be. So either way, yeah, that was kind of fun. You know, I like looking at Epic Universe updates. I'm always looking at this stuff. I just don't make videos about it, just because, you know, I'm intrigued by it, but I do know some people are interested in stuff like this and some people aren't, and that's totally cool. But I figure, you know, now's the perfect time to go ahead and show you guys a little bit of what there is when it comes to the Epic Universe construction updates. Again, this was just a few days ago. Everything was pretty much in the past 2 to 3 days. Maybe there was a photo or two here or there that was maybe from June or something, but overall, these are super cool to see. I love where things are going, and we'll continue to do more updates. But as far as it goes, anything in the past, I'm probably not going to cover too much. I just want to show you where we're at now, how things are looking. And obviously, as we start to move forward, we will, you know, do a few more videos for it. I'm not going to be doing, you know, one a week or anything like that. I mean, maybe I do. I don't know. I guess that's not my plans right now. I want to make sure that there's a lot of new things to look at that we can all kind of be like, wow, we haven't seen this before, versus just cover the same things over and over, or unless they do something unique and something that we already covered. At that point, I wouldn't want to be recovering things over and over. So either way, hopefully you guys kind of had fun checking this out. I know this is a longer video, but we're just kind of looking at the Epic Universe construction updates at this point. And, you know, we're less than a year away according to announcements. Still need to hear about ticketing, annual pass stuff. That is stuff I don't want to speculate on. I already made a video talking about what the rumors were around ticketing. It's looking more and more like that is true. There was a few things that made me a little nervous that I've also heard, but I don't want to start talking about it yet just because I don't want to really say anything until things are more confirmed. But, you know, there's rumors about things that could be happening. And then, you know, obviously Universal made a post talking about phased approaches to ticket things, which is, you know, unfortunate because they added annual pass into the phased approach, which makes me feel like we're not getting annual passes immediately. But I don't want to put a scare out there. Obviously that's public information. You guys can go check that out and go see the post that they made about it. But they did talk about doing things in a phased approach, and the initial phase is looking to be that 3-day multi-park ticket kind of thing. So I don't know. Hopefully it's not as bad as we all kind of make it out to be, and maybe they make some changes, or maybe the initial sales will go to people like that, and then they'll open it up. Maybe that's why they're saying phase. So maybe it's not like phase as in like, you know, the first few months is this, and then the first few months is that, or the second, you know, few months is that. Maybe they're just saying like when we open tickets, you know, the first people that are going to be able to book are going to be these people. Then, you know, we'll open up single day tickets, then they can book, and annual pass, whatever. Which means maybe you're not getting into the park right away, and maybe priority people are going to be there. I don't really know. Again, I said I wasn't going to go into it, and then I just like went right into it. We'll talk more about it in another video when things get a little bit more solidified. Either way, that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys had some fun with me today. If you did enjoy today's video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more Epic Universe content like this, please let me know in the comments below that this is something you're interested in. If you don't care for it, totally fine. And if you haven't yet, you know, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn that little bell notification on if you want to be informed anytime we release any new videos. Obviously Epic Universe, Universal, Disney, etc. This is definitely a busy time of the year. We got a lot coming up. We have Halloween, into the holidays, into the new year, into more just kind of like things happening at the start of the year, and then it's going to be Epic Universe before we know it. So either way, thank you guys for hanging out with us today. I know it's a long video. Hopefully it's not too crazy, but again, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.